What's up, YouTube? I'm back, and today we got a legend, a living legend. We got Megatron in the building tonight, the one and only. Megatron, we're going to introduce yourself.
Well, Megatron Boultanyshen, that's my legal name. It is what it is. Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. I don't know what else to say.
Oh yeah, that's all it takes. They know who you are. It's great work, man. Pictures is phenomenal, phenomenal, man. First time
Appreciate
ever,
it. Appreciate it.
first time ever been interviewed, Megatron.
Yeah, yeah.
First here,
I mean,
first ever
actually,
here.
no. I was actually interviewed 10 years ago by local news because shop I was working at, a
Yeah,
bank robber came running through the shop, and I clotheslined the bastard.
damn.
So they interviewed me about that, but other than that, no.
Oh man, that's crazy. Let's go and dive into it, man. When you take your pictures, you make them feel so realistic. It's like frozen time, and they do feel really realistic. When you set your shots up, do you start them off with a story in your head? Or you just take the pictures. How did that work out?
It's that's a great question. It's kind of 50-50. Most of the time I go in with an idea and I just start messing around with the set. I mess around with the set and then I set up the posing and all that. And it kind of like, I don't know, it's almost like it talks to me. Um, it's hard. That's a good question. A lot of what I do, I have an idea. Like, I will literally be at work thinking about this shit, and I'll have ideas in my head, and I only have time on the weekends to do it. So by the time it hits the weekend, I sit down, set up the shot, set up the setting, lighting, all that kind of crap, and then from there it's just play. And it's as soon as I set up the camera and look through the lens, that's when it actually starts to come together.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when I've got it on the table, everything's set up, playing around. As soon as I actually have the camera on and I'm looking through it, that's when I see whether or not it works or not. And if it works, great. If it doesn't work, then I start messing around with shit, and it's that's where the fun is. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I get the idea, and then when I play it out, that's when it's fun. But so many times I'll plan a shot days in advance, and then I set it up, and I'm just not happy at all. And if
Okay.
I'm not happy at all, I scrap it, and then it's just whatever comes to mind. I
Mm-hmm.
got music playing, and, I play off the music, everything, is like a vibe, and then, shit either comes together or don't. You know what I mean?
Yeah, makes perfect sense. Your pictures, they they be on point. It's some of the best. Um, what separates just a cool picture from a storytelling picture to you? A cool picture is like Hasbro when they're advertised. What separates a cool picture from a storytelling picture for you?
So that, for me, that's very much where I'm at in a frame of mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times I'll sit down, I'll start setting up the picture, and like maybe I have an idea for a storyline, right? So maybe I'm continuing a storyline or I'm trying to create a new one or whatever, and it either it plays out like, I guess, like a director, where
Mm-hmm.
you get what you want kind of deal. You know, like I want this storyline. I want to make this scene work for whatever. Or I just it's hard to explain. It's like one of the two. Either you go into it and you get exactly what you want storytelling wise, right?
Mm-hmm.
You get the right lighting, you get the right emotion out of the figures, which is always weird to do. Or you just get a vibe where you get like feelings out of things. Like it's hard to explain. Like usually it's the music playing, and then you get the everything kind of comes together, and it's just like it hits you. You see the image you're setting up. You get the right lighting effect. You get the right backlight. You get the whatever it is, and it punches you in the fucking gut. You know what I mean? That's when you know you have something that's just plain cool as shit. When you're shooting for an actual storyline telling thing, which over the last couple of years I've learned is incredibly difficult to do. It's really hard to tell stories that go past one or two shots. But when you are doing that, you have very specific wants or needs, right? And you're drawing upon influences from movies, TV, comic books, whatever the fuck it is, right? Whatever you're into kind of deal. But like, you know, you've got a lot of influences to draw upon. But when you just want to take a really cool shot, a lot of the times it just comes down to, I want to see this. And you see it in your head, and it's just a matter of setting it all up so you see that. And when you see that in the camera and you take the shot and it works, it's like the most incredible fucking thing in the world. It's kind of crazy how awesome that feels when you get there. Even if it means nothing, like zero story kind of deal. It's just, I want something really cool, and it happens. Because so many times you think you're going to do that, and it does not work out like at all. You know, you set it up like, I know this is going to be, and it just doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
So, storytelling versus just plain cool imagery,
Mm-hmm.
it's like night and day. It's like it's almost like two different hobbies, you know? And it's it's a balance that I've been really learning over the last couple of years. Because it used to be like when I first started all of this, like when I first started getting into this hobby at all,
Mm-hmm.
it was just straight up, let's take pictures and let's see some cool shit, and let's try and make some cool shit. And then when I started trying to tell the stories, that's when I really got a huge, like a massive respect for directors and, you know, writers and all this, because what they go through, and I'm not trying to pretend like I'm on their
Yeah.
level, but what they go through has to be so much further than what I do, right?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm just scratching the surface of what they do, and it has brought me a huge amount of respect just for how do you angles, lighting, everything, like the whole nine, just to get a little bit of emotion out of a piece of plastic. It is so difficult to do. And when you get it, when you've dicked around with this shit, and then all of a sudden you get a shot and you get the right shadowing, you get the right lighting, you get the light, you know,
Yeah.
It's such a rewarding thing that it gives me this idea that, you know, the the movie makers especially that I respect, I have no idea what they go through, because it's like I'm doing this much compared to like this huge amount what they do, and when you nail it, it's the greatest feeling in the world.
Mm.
You know?
That's yeah. I know exactly what you said because with the new Big Lob figure, I'm just shooting a cool picture. I'm making this diorama, and it's like an alley, and I'm gonna do some things to it. And I haven't even opened the Big Lob because I want to be standing in this diorama with his ball, with his basketball, whatever. So I know exactly what you're talking about as far as the cool pitch, and then the storytelling. Yeah, man, it's definitely hard to make that stuff make come alive like that. It is hard. Okay, what was the turning point with all the photography you've been doing when you realized you found your style? What point did you realize that you found your style? Because you do have a unique style.
Ooh. Um I would have to say that was about, I'm horrible with time frames, by the way, so sorry about this, but I'm gonna say about 10 years ago.
Mm,
So I started this hobby, I think about 15 years ago, maybe 14 or whatever. Doesn't really matter. But when I first started, I was just kind of, yeah, honestly, I was biting off everybody else that I saw, right? So I was on ACBA, and whatever I saw other people doing, I was trying to replicate it, you know, and I was not doing good. If you go back, if you
yeah.
actually go into my Instagram and you go all the way back, oh man, I was bad when I first started. I was horrible. Um, and then, yeah, I'd say about 10 or 12 years ago, I started. I decided I wanted to focus on horror. I
Yeah, I remember.
really, because
I
I've
remember
always
that.
been a huge fan of horror movies, right?
Mm,
And I wanted to focus on more horror related toy photography. And I started really paying attention to, especially the lighting with in horror movies. And you know, you watch Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, all that kind of shit. It's all schlock, right? None of it's quality film, but they have a very specific style, especially with lighting,
hmm
um, that I was focusing on, and I wanted to replicate that. And I got to a point where, at least I feel, I got to a point where I was doing that well. So if I did a Freddy shot, I was doing a more Wes Craven style lighting setup, and if I was doing a Jason shot, I was replicating that a little bit better, and it taught me a lot about shadow work, especially shadows and highlights. And I delved into Army of Darkness, you know, the Sam Raimi stuff, and a lot of that kind of stuff. And I was dealing with a lot of that stuff, and so it was a lot of really really dramatic highlights and shadow work, and I
mm,
was having a lot of fun with that. And I got to a point where I felt like I was almost stuck. Like I felt like I was just replicating somebody else's shit. And that's when I think, yeah, I think G.I. Joe Classified actually came out just around that time. And at first, I didn't want to get into G.I. Joe Classified when they
wow.
first started. Yeah, I wanted nothing to do with it at first. I knew they had a 6-inch line. I had been failing miserably at trying to learn how to shoot Dragon Ball Z. I had a bunch of SH Figure Arts Dragon Ball Z figures, and I was failing miserably at shooting them. I could not shoot them properly. And to be honest, still to this day, I still have no idea how to shoot Dragon Ball Z shit. I've had a couple that were semi-successful, but for the most part, I just fail miserably at it. Anyone that shoots that, enough respect. That's a weird style that I can't get my head around. But when Classified first came out, like I said, I'd kind of set my tone with the horror style lighting, and then I came across, I think it was, Cobra Commander. I got the first Cobra Commander. I just ran across in Walmart, picked him up, took him home, said, good enough. This is all I'm going to do. I started messing around with him, and next thing you know, hundreds of figures later, but as I was shooting the G.I. Joe Classified when I first started, I still had all of those, all of that horror lighting and whatnot in my head. But at the same time, I didn't want to just shoot it like that. So I started messing around with highlights and different angles and whatnot. And then next thing you know, hundreds of G.I. Joe Classified figures later, and God knows how many shots, it just kind of built on me. You know what I mean? But the beauty of G.I. Joe has always been, and I'm old, right? I was there for the beginning of G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
So, but I was super young when I was introduced to G.I. Joe, and at the exact same time, there was so much Vietnam War media available, and it was just everywhere, right? So I was reading books about the Vietnam War. I was watching movies about the Vietnam War. I was watching G.I. Joe. I was reading the comic books, G.I. Joe. Next thing you know, I found out about the Punisher, and I started reading the Punisher, and he had roots in the Vietnam War. And everything as a small child seemed to revolve around the Vietnam War for me. And that's jungle, dark, wet. Like there's so many, like elements of the Vietnam War, and that was always in the back of my head. So even when I was in high school and I was drawing comic books, I was drawing this shit. So when I got into taking toy photos, and especially when G.I. Joe came in, and I started doing G.I. Joe pictures, and I had enough characters and figures to make something happen, as opposed to just, one or two figures, that influence came right back to me. And I remembered how much I loved those influences, and I remembered how much social commentary stuff that was big on my head, and I just ran with it. And that's kind of where it all came from. That's where that whole style came from. So that's,
it makes perfect sense.
It makes that sense. harsh lighting, those distinctive shadows, like these are all the things that I loved about those movies, the comic books, and all that kind of stuff. It wasn't product photography kind of deal that I liked. I didn't want to, flood the scene with all bright light, and so you can, see everything. I wanted even in a bright light setup, I wanted harsh shadows. I love shadows, and that's just like that's kind of where it went.
Yeah, that makes sense now, especially when you said the Vietnam style. I think I like Vietnam stuff too. That's strange you say that, and in some of my writing, I'm implementing a lot of Vietnam stuff, and I guess that's why I like building jungles. It's funny you said that because I like that's one of my favorite dioramas to do is jungles. I never thought
Hell
about,
yeah.
and I like a lot
Yep.
of wreckage. You see my dioramas, I like wreckage and tore up jungles and parts of machines. So yeah, that makes perfect sense, man. That makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense. What?
It's almost it's almost what do they call it? Shit. I'm sorry. Words missing me. Sorry about that.
No,
Anyway,
it's
go
10
on.
o'clock in the morning. We're good. Yeah. Well, the next one is when you give it a when you take them pictures, man, just like you make those figures come alive, and we're gonna show some pictures at the end of the show of the Q&A, and I'm gonna let people see it. When you make some of those pictures come alive, like how do you do that? What's your mindset when you're giving a figure a piece of plastic personality? Because you got some pictures that they have personality in it. What's your mindset when you're doing that?
I will give Boog from ACBA. I will give Boog full credit for this. I remember him at one point saying, posing is fundamental. And I took that to heart. And I realized that the posing of the figure, it's not so important to have the extreme poses, right? Because you can have crazy ninja poses, crazy, you know what I mean, like
Yeah.
sword drawn back, whatever. Those are extreme poses, and they're dramatic, and you'll get a feeling, if you will, from those poses. But what I realize, and I do believe it comes back again to the horror. One of my favorite horror character is Jason Voorhees, and my favorite Jason Voorhees actor is oh shit, what's his name? Uh, wow, sorry, I'm blanking. But anyway, Part 7, for instance, Kane Hodder, that's his name. Sorry about that. Kane Hodder, and the reason I loved Kane Hodder so much as Jason is everything he did as Jason was subtle. So he would, because Jason didn't speak, he didn't do a whole lot to, you know, emote, but you knew what was going on in his head.
Mm-hmm.
And it was always just very subtle movements, a drop of the shoulder, slight tilt of the head. Like there was a lot of very small, subtle things. And I learned from that you can make a character, figure, whatever, say so much if you just replicate the smallest amounts of movement, right? So you can have big, dramatic, flowing movement,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody knows what's going on. But you can also have a very static pose, but if you can somehow make the shoulder look slumped, have the head just tilted down, maybe have a hip tilted slightly, all of a sudden that plastic figure is sad as fuck. You push the chest out, shoulders back. You can do so many things that are small, little movements, and you catch the right angle to accentuate them, and it makes such a big statement with almost nothing going on.
Yeah.
And I ran with that, and I've told so many people, like, smallest movements tell the biggest stories.
Dang. That's what I'm talking about there. Good game. You're dropping some jewels tonight. what was what was some of the mistakes that you made? You already brought it up, but what some of the mistakes that you made trying to find your style? Because we all do that. I've done that.
I've made so many mistakes. The biggest mistake I ever made in the beginning was trying desperately to be popular. I mean, the first couple of years I started doing this, the most important thing to me was, why aren't people liking this? How do
Yeah.
I get more likes? How do I get more comments and all that kind of bullshit? And that really held me back. And I didn't realize it at the time, but looking back, that was the biggest uh, anchor, that could have been tied to me. It was holding me back so much because all I gave a shit about was trying to, you know, blow up, become popular, whatever the fuck it is, right? And it, once I let go of that idea, once I realized, like, who gives a shit? I don't get anything. You know, 1 follower or 1 billion followers, I still get exactly nothing. You know what I mean? Just enjoy the art. Just get into it and do what you fucking want and put out what you enjoy and what you want, how you want it. And that was what it was. The biggest mistake I made by far was not understanding that in the beginning. And I had a couple of OGs tell me, like, bruh, who fucking cares? Like, don't worry about the likes and all that kind of shit. But that was, and I think it's very common for people to fall into that,
Mm-hmm.
especially when they first get into it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and once you realize, like I said, like, how many people do this, right? Like, how many millions of people are into this hobby, and there are so many people that are insanely good at it,
Yeah.
and there's maybe 5 that will ever get hired or paid to do it, and even them, most of the time, are not doing it full time. It's usually a part-time gig that is, on top of their regular photography or whatever the fuck it is kind of job, right? So stop fucking worrying about it. Stop giving a shit about it. Just do what the hell you want and have fun with it. That's the whole point, right? And once I realized that, that's when I feel like I cast the chains off, if you will, and just soared. That's when I just this became the greatest hobby of all time. As soon as I stopped trying to make it something beyond that,
Yeah.
because it's not going to happen. You may or may not monetize it to a certain degree or whatever, like whatever. But for the most part, man, I ain't going to pay my mortgage taking pictures of my foot. You know what I mean? It's not going to happen.
yeah.
I'm not gonna fill my fridge. I'm not, at best, I might end up, a couple of commissions on dioramas or whatever. Maybe I can sell a couple of prints or something like that, and maybe I can, like, fund an action figure. But at the end of the day, it's like, just have fun with it. And that was the biggest lesson I think I learned
Mm-hmm.
of the whole thing. And as soon as I understood that, and as soon as I let go of the idea that anybody gives a fuck, that's when I started really, truly having fun with this and doing what I wanted to do. And like, I don't, as soon as you let go of the what would make people happy, who gives a fuck what would just make yourself happy. It's a hobby, right?
Yeah.
And that was the biggest mistake I made when I first started. I tried so hard to make it a job, and it was never going to happen.
Dang, man, you make me think about it. My first mistakes starting off, man, it's gonna be a little different. I've never really felt was okay. I never really cared about the popularity thing, but my thing was always I could never stay consistent, man.
Mm,
Anybody that stays consistent at this stuff, making YouTube videos, all that stuff, I couldn't do it, man, because life outside, because life and stuff, it always hinder me from making YouTube videos. Like I get off work, ah, I don't want to make a video, and then I'll make one tomorrow. Then the next thing I know, a year done passed, and I ain't made a video or shot a picture or really done anything. I could never stay consistent. So this year, well, this past last year and this year, people's been kind of showing me a little love, and I've been motivated. So I wasn't never really motivated to do this, and I had all the talent. I mean, I could show you X-Men that you probably never seen before, but I just could never stay motivated. I never stopped. I never put my paintbrush down. I never put my dioramas down. My creativity always was there. I was always writing, but I never could be consistent. That was my problem. The consistency
yeah,
was
but at the same time, consistency is kind of like it's boring, right?
yeah,
This is a creative hobby. Like
yeah,
I followed you for years.
yeah,
I've been watching you create. Like I love your custom figures. I've
yeah,
always loved your custom figures, and like I've watched you build upon that, and like the idea of being consistent, like that's boring. Fuck consistency.
yeah.
Creativity and consistency do not necessarily go together.
I
You
know
know what
that.
I mean? Like you can go years without producing anything that the public sees in a creative endeavor. And when you suddenly drop something, the whole world can be like, oh, sweet Jesus, fuck. Yeah, I kind of forgot this guy existed, but oh my God, I don't know where he's been, but that is the shit.
Yeah, yeah.
And we've
Perfect.
seen that so many times. We've seen that so many times in popular culture, right?
Yeah,
Like movies and stuff. Like I don't know, Quentin Tarantino. I'll throw that name out just because he has a tendency to disappear for years and years on end to the point where people kind of forgot he existed, and then all of a sudden a new movie comes out, and it's like, oh my, holy shit! Like, you know, it blows your mind that he went from the last one that he did, and now the new one is like so much bigger, better, whatever you want to say. Point is, consistency is corporate. In my mind, corporations are consistent. They'll give you the exact same thing over and over and over again. That's why it's comfortable. When it comes to artistic endeavors, consistency shouldn't happen. You know
mm,
what I mean?
yeah,
Like there will be periods of time where you're on a run and you got something going, and you will be consistently producing whatever, and then there will be a point where the well dries, if you will, and
yeah,
it kind of puts a pause on yourself, and then you kind of disappear, and then you live your life, and you think of your own things or whatever, and then you come up with this crazy idea and you build on it, and all of a sudden you reappear. And if anybody was a fan in the first place, whether they forgot about you or not, they're going to see, and they're, oh, I remember this person. I love their ideas. Let's see what they're, and then they get their minds blown because you've grown, right? It's not consistent. It's creative. You know what I mean?
yeah. Exactly. It makes perfect sense because I would do that from time to time. If someone wanted to upgrade their photographs, what would be the first three things you would tell them to do to better their
Ooh,
skills?
without a doubt, posing. Learn how to pose. Learn how to pose naturally. If you have to stand in front of a mirror and feel like an idiot and do regular everyday posing, do that. If you can picture it in your head, if you can pay attention to the people around you in society, how they stand, how they walk, how they lean on things, how they, you know, posing. Learn how to replicate natural posing. Next thing would be lighting. Lighting is another fundamental of photography anyway, but there are very specific things about lighting you have to learn. You have to learn basic setup, so like the 3 point setup or whatever. But you also have to learn how to replicate nature. So if you want to have a realistic shot in a jungle, you're going to have multiple light sources, but you also have to have multiple color keys. So you're going to have, depending on the time of day that you want to do, you might have a warm light. You also have a 5600K light, and
Mm,
then and you also have to have shadowing. So if you're doing I'm just going to keep coming back to the jungle, but if you have a jungle setup, you're going to have breaks in tree lines. You're going to have bright light shining through, but you're also going to have broken light where it's cutting through trees, it's cutting through bushes or across a mountain. You have to be able to think about these things, but you also have to remember the sun is only one thing. And I've made this mistake so many times. You're going to have one sun. You can't have three of them because that's not real. So even if you think it looks really cool to have the sun coming from two different directions, you have to understand that does not make sense. So you have to be able to figure out how to create a natural environment with your lighting.
mm.
And the next thing, and this one's a little bit trickier to explain, but the next thing is your set. No matter what kind of shot you're doing, you have to look at it like a director. You have to look through the camera and you have to have your set correct. So having a backdrop and nothing thought through on that is going to give you a mediocre shot. You want to have things in the foreground. You want to have things, you want to create depth, right? So you'll have your character, have this guy here, right? But you also have to have something behind him and preferably something in front of him. And you have to learn how to set the shot up so that those things are balanced in a way that you'll see them, your brain will be happy about it, but at the same time, your brain is not fixated on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So you
yeah,
you want things going on that your brain understands make sense, but you don't want your brain to be distracted by it. You want, let's say, put the Punisher in the middle of a warehouse. Let's go low light. So we're going to have the Punisher walking through a warehouse, rifle up, whatever.
mm,
Maybe some dramatic light coming through a window. Good,
yeah.
cool
Yeah.
shit. In the background, you're going to want to have shelves or equipment. You don't want that shit to be too noticeable. You want it there but you don't want to look at it. You know what I mean? It's what I like to call visual garbage. It's there. Your brain says that makes sense, and then it moves on and it goes right back to the subject. At the same time, if you really want to take it a step further, you also want to have, say, a table slightly kind of like, camera forward of the Punisher without interrupting the Punisher visual. And maybe you have a cup of coffee sitting on that table and then a piece of paper, stupid shit like that means nothing except that that's how the real world works. When you're out and about in the real world, just look around. You'll see uh, broken bottles on the ground. You'll see pieces of paper floating around on the ground. That's the kind of shit you want to replicate without making a huge deal about the fact that it's there. You just want it there so that when the brain looks at the image, you see the subject, what you are actually wanting to show. Everything in the background exists for a reason. It's not drawing your attention, but it's there and it makes sense so that your brain is like, yeah, I get it. And anything you put in front of it is the same thing. It's not a distraction. It's what you want. It's what you expect to see. If you shoot a shot on a street and the street is clean, the brain is going to say this is wrong. And when the brain says this is wrong, it's going to ask, why is this wrong? And it's going to say, oh, the street is clean. This is a toy pick. If you're shooting, like if you're looking to do a picture of toys and make it believable as real life, which is essentially what we're always trying to do kind of deal, you want to trick the viewer's brain into thinking, no, this is real. There's only so many ways you can do that. Lighting, posing, and visual crap in front of and behind the picture. Man. If it doesn't make sense, it's not going to work. It's just going to be a picture of a toy. And if you can make it work, that's when you get to that. Like the way you make it work is to trick the viewer's brain into thinking everything I see in front of me makes sense, so I'm not going to pay attention to it. Wow. And I'm just going to pay attention to the actual subject of the picture. Man. And that is kind of like, that is what I really have tried for years. That's why I put like all kinds of stupid bullshit that nobody fucking notices all the time into my pictures, because it's like, I want to make you think you're actually looking at what I want you to think you're looking at. It doesn't matter what it is. If it's a fucking dinosaur, I want you to not notice that I stuck a snake in the grass that you can barely make out. I just want it there so that your brain says, yeah, this all makes sense. There's a rock. There's dust. There's a flyer floating through the air. But I'm not making a huge deal about the flyer floating through the air, whatever the fuck it is, right? That is the way you make the illusion work.
Man, that was education there. Man, I could listen to you talk like that all day, because that was very educational. That, needless to say, we got to do this again, because that right there was very educational. I'll be honest, I fail all the time with that. Like I that's what I strive for. I fail all the time. But it's one of those things that it's just like, those are the things I do my best to try. I want the, if I have a specific figure in the shot, I want him to look really cool, but I want everything around him to make sense. Because if it doesn't make sense, then it breaks the illusion.
And it doesn't matter what the illusion you're shooting for. Like, I mean, most of what we do is, I know it's ridiculous, right? Like, there's all kinds of, like,
Yeah,
ridiculous nonsense, but I want it to be as believable as I can make it. So the only thing you can do to make a plastic action figure believable is make the entire environment as believable as humanly possible. You're still going to see joints, you're still going to see, peg holes or whatever, but you can make the environment trick the brain so much better than you can with the figure, right? I can't make his eyes look left. They're always going to look straight ahead, dead as fuck. But I can have clouds. I can make, I can have the light intensity set to the point where you believe it's warm as fuck. I can have some fog floating through, which makes it look humid. I can
yeah,
make you believe the environment is real world, even if it's, you know, a skeleton
yeah,
with a sword in his hand. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So that's kind of what that would be my best advice as far as like how do you do this as best you can. Shoot for realism everywhere around what you can control.
Man, you know what? When you said that, making these dioramas, I thought about when you were talking about putting things in there. I started thinking about little whatnot things that I could put in my dioramas to make them so much better. And I do some pretty decent dioramas, but that right there, because with the graffiti, the little paper, I might sometimes put a teddy bear in there or something. You know,
Mm-hmm.
some that does make a difference. Man, it makes a
Electrical outlets.
yeah.
Electrical outlets are my favorite things to put in my dioramas. And it
Mm,
sounds so fucking stupid. And it's the easiest thing in the world to do. You download. I think I have a file somewhere or another where it's 112 scale electrical outlets, and it's an entire sheet of just really not great looking graphics of electrical outlets, and you send it. Go down to Staples, print 10 or 12 pages, cut them out. They're little teeny little fuckers, and I cut a tiny piece of foam, like a foam
yeah,
core. Cut a little tiny rectangle of foam core, glue the paper to it, and then just paint a little silver around it, and then you stick that on a wall somewhere, and then just copper wire. Like grab a length of copper wire, like single
yeah.
strand copper wire, paint it silver, and you just pose it, and you just glue it to the fucking wall, and all of a sudden you have a really believable electrical setup that
Man,
nobody's going to see. Nobody's actually going to be like, yo, you got an electrical outlet on the wall on that motherfucker. No, nobody is ever going to say that. But that's not why you do it. I do it so that the brain says, oh, yeah, this is a mechanical shop and there's a bunch of electrical outlets and it's some janky ass looking, conduit on the wall. And it'll, depending on which direction the light goes, you'll get a little bit different shadowing, which is normal in real life. You know, it's stupid little bullshit like that. That's the dumbass shit that I love. It's just like when you weather things, right?
mm,
So, if you weather stuff, it looks so much more realistic.
yeah, yeah,
Every single 112 scale vehicle I've ran it through. I have a bucket of what do you call it? Desert substrate. Yeah, you go to any pet store. and you can get a bag of what they call desert substrate, and it's basically sand, but it's not sand. So it's sand with different levels of rocks and gravel and shit, but it's like a reddish color. Anyway, the reason I love that is I can stick a figure in there. I can run tires through there. I can just pour it on shit and then dump it off. And it's instant weathering that you can just brush off with a brush.
I never even thought of that. Wow. Well,
It's beautiful for setting up sand dunes and shit like that, right? For your shot. But at the same time, all I got to do is take a figure, shove it in that dirt, pull it back out, and he's instantly weathered. And I did not use a paintbrush. It's not permanent at all. It will last. I have a few figures that are still dirty with that shit years later, and all I have to do is take a paintbrush, swat them, and they're clean again. Zero permanence. But I throw it at my vehicles. I run the tires through it because, tires are dirty, man. It's just how it is.
I end up dry brushing mine to make them dirty.
Absolutely, and there's nothing wrong with doing that. It's just I really, really love non-permanence.
Yeah, what you're talking about doing is gonna give it that real look, that real gritty, dirty look, like real dirt. Man, that's crazy.
So at the end of the day, what are you doing with paint? You're trying to make it look like this viper has been in the desert, right? Ram him through some sand that sticks to his figure, and you just did that because that's what it actually is.
When someone looks at your work 10 years from now, what do you want them to remember about you?
If someone's looking at what I do 10 years from now, I really, really hope they're looking at what I did, and I truly hope they're saying, he got so much better. At the end of the day, all I want is to get better. I want to get better at telling stories. I want to get better at writing, which is something I only started a couple of years ago. I want to get better at the lighting. I want to get better at my setups. I want to get better at the photography in general. I want to always be getting better. So if somebody looks at something I did today, 10 years from now, I truly hope they say, wow, he got so much better.
Wow, that's a good answer. Somebody was thinking, I'm gonna have to jump in on this one. All the stuff that I'm doing right now. Somebody would say, look at my stuff. At the end of
the day, I mean, that's especially with hobbies, that should be what it's all about.
But I still want to put out a statement, and I just want to be able people to say that. I mean, he got better, cool, but I did it my way. That's what I did it my way. I didn't go through, I did it my way. I want people to look at my work and say, hey, he did it, but he did it his way, and it worked for him. I don't like the cookie cutter.
That's a really good point, and I agree.
My way. I mean, because like with my custom characters and my robots and all that stuff that I'm doing, I just want to do it my way. Like somebody see my Vikings and stuff, like Vikings with guns. What? Oh, what are you talking? Yes, Vikings with guns and they're blowing up robots. You know what I'm saying? Yes, that's never been heard of. You know what I'm saying?
I think it was 4 years ago. Again, I suck at remembering time frames, but I
Mhm.
think it was about 4 years ago that I first started uh, Cobra's 52nd Infantry. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah,
When I first started it,
the one
I,
he talking about.
I wasn't all in kind of deal. I was kind of hinting at things and I was kind of playing around, messing around. And then by the time I got to a point where I think after a year, I committed and said, okay, here's volume two. Volume two was kind of like, this is official. And I started really building on the characters and just the whole thing. It was then that I realized I want people, if they give a shit about this, I want people to remember that I did it different. You know,
Yes, yes,
I did it
yes,
different. The whole point of the 52nd Infantry was to humanize the faceless soldiers of Cobra that without actually giving them faces and without actually giving them names. I really wanted them to be
yes. I can see that.
still anonymous but have personalities, and I
Yes,
really wanted people to I really wanted to create characters that people liked and then throw them like have these characters do shit that made them say, oh, that's not cool. I don't like. I wanted people to question their own feelings about them. You know what I mean?
yes.
That's what I set
Yes,
out with.
I understand that.
That's why I'm constantly trying to make people like them and then at the same time hate them.
I'm the
Because to
same way.
me,
Office stuff, same way. Same.
that's what war is.
Yes,
That's
it is.
what war is.
Yeah,
You
because
know?
in my universe, what I'm doing right now, the Maroons and the Vikings is at war, and that's what it's about. You're right, and they're gonna kill a bunch of Maroons and a bunch of Vikings are gonna die. Because what I do, I'm doing like I'm taking. I love listening to Vietnam veteran stories, and I'm putting some of their stories inside of the wars that goes on. So yeah, you're right, man. This is a great interview, man. Um, if you had to shoot one of my characters, what would you want the character backstory to be? If I sent you a character, one of my characters to Canada, say, "Hey man, I got to see you one of my characters to shoot." Which kind of
You have
character?
so many, and I feel like this might sound I don't know, kind of like a cop out, but you did you made Tupac a
Yeah,
GI Joe figure.
yeah.
Okay, now I'm going to probably make a lot of people angry at me right now. I was never the biggest fan of Tupac. Okay,
Hmm.
now I'm 47 now, so I grew up through the entirety of gangster rap. So I got into rap music through Ice-T
Hmm.
and Ice Cube and NWA and
Yeah.
all of these guys that came before Tupac. Now I'm not gonna shit on Tupac in any way, shape, or form. However, when I saw your custom of Tupac and I saw your write up of it and how you integrated him into the G.I. Joe universe, I thought it was so clever and I really wanted to jump on that.
Hmm.
You know, I was like, I want to run with that. And it's one of those, things where it's kind of like a sandbox. There's an established mythology, whatever you want to call it, like an established story, But on top of that, then you can just run with it. And because it's a known character, if you will, it hits home with so many people anyways. And he was, love him, hate him, doesn't really matter. He was such a larger than life character, especially towards the end. And I'm not going to get too deep
No,
into this,
we got
but
plenty.
there, especially towards the end, there was so much personality and frustration and whatnot with him that it would be so much fun to play with that character, that idea, and shove him into the GI Joe world. Like, fuck yeah, please do that. Yeah, I want to do that. I think that would be my number one right there.
Oh wow, that's crazy. That is crazy.
You can go so many directions with that, and that would be so much fun.
I
Like
would,
any of your characters, like any and all of your characters, of course, you can go in all kinds of different directions. But the
man. That,
fact that he's based off a real life character
uh-huh.
that was going, that
All right, we might
that's where
have
I'm
to.
going.
You said you working on season 4, right? Was it three, 4 or 3?
Three,
4. I thought it was some reason I was
season
thinking
three.
3. He may have to make a guest appearance in season 3.
It would be badass.
He may have to make a guest appearance in season 3
I
because
think I know exactly how that could work too.
he actually had a picture in the all of the camo. But if you want to talk about their storylines, it's crazy that we're having this conversation. Um, he went to working with the Joes. I just told this story on the last interview I did. He went to working with the Joes because he became a GI Joe. He didn't like the. He felt the Joes was bad and the Joes was bad and Cobra was the good guy because he started. You know how you get in, you want to be a part of something, and then when you get in there, you say, "Hold up, this ain't what I think. This is some. Hold up, this is not right." So he got out of. He called the Dre. He called up Thrasher because him and Thrasher was, remember, Tupac was locked up. So him and Thrasher was locked up together. He called Thrasher up and said, "Hey, could Thrasher owed him a favor?" He called Thrasher and said, "Hey man, come pick me up." And Thrasher picked him up in the Thunder Machine because I got the 6-inch Thunder Machine. And Thrasher picked him up in the Thunder Machine, and he took off the GI Joe, the camo uniform he had on, and he put on the California Love dreadnought look that he had on and that's what he left in. I actually did all that. It's crazy. But I'll make
And, and and
I'll
it
make
is on point. It is on point with him. Like before Tupac hit Death Row, he was very much a um, he was very much into he was close to Malcolm X. You know what I mean? Like he was very much into um, uh, he, sorry, I'm blanking here. It's late.
Yeah, it's 3 o'clock. We
Yeah,
up at 4 o'clock in the morning, man. 4 a.m. Who's done an interview at 4 a.m.?
it's all good. But it was all about human rights. It was
Yeah.
all about human rights.
It's funny you should.
He when he first signed with Death Row, everything kind of went sideways, and that's when he basically lost his he got fed up with the world, which
Yeah,
I mean, who can blame him, right?
right.
But before that, he really was a human rights activist, 110%. And you can argue that throughout he still was, but at this he got to a point of frustration. So if you take him before that point of frustration and you put him into that world, it's like you can do so many fucking things with him. You know what I mean? You can do so many things. Even after that, you can still do so many things.
All right. All right. Let's get on these pictures now. That's my
Oh wow!
favorite picture that you've ever took. I love that picture, man. That picture drove me crazy. Now you're gonna have to tell about that picture.
That is still to this day one of my favorite pictures of my own, and I don't like a lot of what
That's
I do.
crazy. That's
I'm
crazy.
still very proud of that.
Come on, tell us about that picture, man. We want to know.
Uh, this, I
Our picture.
think, I do believe this picture is the birth of the 52nd Infantry of Cobra, and I didn't know it at the time. I
Um,
just wanted to do a kind of like 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 Apocalypse Now, Platoon, all these movies where they're just soldiers marching through the destroyed city. And I wanted to do that, and I kind of wanted to separate the infantry from the Vipers. So I had the Vipers kind of sitting around doing whatever, and I had the infantry just kind of marching past them, kind of ignoring them, and it was so much fun to set up. It was such a huge setup, but it was so much fun to set up because each and every single figure, I had them like passing magazines to each other. I had them, looking like they were talking and shit. And it was like the whole thing was just, I want them to look like people. People in a shit situation, soldiers. And when I finally took the shot, I looked at it as one of the rare instances that I was like, I like this. I kind of want to redo it because there's things I would love to go back and do different things with, like small little things. I'd love to have a little bit of atmosphere going. I didn't have anything for that, a little fog or dust or whatever. But like the whole point of the entire picture was just tired infantry marching past the Vipers that have in a city that they've already conquered kind of deal. I just kind of wanted to make them look human.
that picture there has been. When I first seen that picture, I said, "Oh my fucking god!" Like me and you said about Vietnam, that looks like a picture straight out of Full Metal Jacket or something, but with
Yep.
GI Joe and Cobra. I love that. That's my favorite. That's my
Thank
favorite.
you. I appreciate it. It is honestly still to this day one of my favorite. And I don't know how old that is now. That's several years old. That's got to be about 6 or 7 years old.
Yes.
That one, yeah. This one was kind of personal.
Okay, come on.
Uh, did I? I had I got stabbed in the back at work, kind of deal, and this was kind of my this is how I felt. I had a bunch of Vipers. I wanted to do a shot with a bunch of Vipers. I had sand, so I wanted to do a desert shot. But at some point in time, I felt like I just wanted to express my frustration over getting stabbed in the back. And
Wow.
so that's what I did. And that's where that came from. That's, he's laying on the ground. The idea is, you know, they've all been marching through the desert and they're exhausted or whatever, and he dropped, couldn't hack it. You got your commander, sergeant, whatever the fuck you want to call them, standing over him, like, what the fuck is wrong with you? But at the end of the day, it's like everyone just like, fuck them, keeps walking by. And yeah, it came from, I got stabbed in the back at work, and that was
Dang,
kind of
crazy.
it's how I felt.
That
Felt like
was
everybody was just like, fuck them, and kept walking, and it's like, really? Really? After everything, okay. That's where that came from.
that's crazy. I mean, that's another one of the ones you did that was like, holy shit! But it makes perfect sense now. That makes perfect sense. Man, we're gonna have to. I'm telling you, we're gonna have to keep doing this, man. We're gonna have to do this shit more often because I'm having so much. Literally, folks, it's 4 in the morning. I'm up with Megatron, and he's explaining some of these pictures I've been seeing for years. This there's no other place to be right now. We're gonna have to do this again. That's that one. That's another one of them. Come on, man.
Yes. This one only happened because my good friend Trevor lending me that Megatron. Well, I still have it actually, and he's almost to scale. So that Megatron is almost to scale to 112 figs. So he lent it to me, and I was just like, I need a GI Joe versus Megatron setup. Had a bunch of building dios and whatnot, and I just kind of figured, hey, if you got Megatron going after, why wouldn't there be bats? And just all the Joes. Some of them aren't Joes because this was still in my early days. Obviously, I didn't
Yeah,
have that many figures, so I got a Valaverse guy there or whatever.
I mean
But
it
it
works.
was just like,
That's perfect.
yeah,
That's
and I
perfect.
was just like, you know what? Like, let's have let's have something insanely fucked up going on. Like, okay, so the Joes are fighting off. You know, you got a battle going, and all of a sudden, 100 foot tall fucking Megatron walks out from under behind the building. It's like, shit, we're fucked.
Dang. Okay, with these dioramas, you built all those dioramas.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just letting the folks know, man. Yeah, he does amazing work. Trust me, I've been looking at your stuff for a long time, and that shit looks so awesome, man. I mean, that's some of your older stuff.
Oh yeah, this is pretty old. I
Now
still
you
have. I'm pretty sure I still have all these diodes.
now you talking
A lot
about
of the
that?
foreground stuff is just random junk,
Yeah.
but the buildings and whatnot, yeah, I still got those.
All right. They go that lighting you're talking about.
Oh, Firefly! This one, I shout out to Akira Joe. I harassed the living shit out of him for about 2 days because I really wanted the light beams, and I had never managed to pull off light beams. So I kept harassing him on camera settings. All that shit. I was like, dude, I need some light beams. How do you do it? And he walked me through the settings and whatnot,
All right.
and that was honestly that was it. The whole shot was based on I want light beams, and that's what I did. So I had a dio with a bunch of broken walls and stuff, and I mean Firefly just made sense.
Dang.
Really wish I did this with the Mezco Firefly, but that was I don't know 2 or 3 years before he even came out.
You see that droid right there too, man? That's perfect. That's
Trying to remember, I'm pretty sure that drone is held in place by a toothpick. If I remember correctly, I had that drone with some blue tack and a toothpick jammed into the dial, and just camera angle to make sure you don't see the fucking toothpick. Yeah, that was fun. I think I did like 10 or 12 different shots around that kind of idea, but I mean, it's Firefly, man. It's Firefly. I had to do Firefly.
that's
I
dope.
love Firefly. Oh
What are
yes,
one of those simple ones that you were talking about?
this one I still love this picture. I mean, it's Beachhead. Love Beachhead. Everything about Beachhead is awesome. All of these plants that you see sticking
Mm-hmm.
out, I bought. I bought off. I think it was Timu. Got like 50 of them or 100 of them for like $4, whatever the fuck it was. But they arrived and they're wired, and then the kind of ground, if you will, it's a really cool plastic foliage mat, like a really nice one. I ended up getting at I think it was Marshall's. Doesn't really matter. So the plants arrived, right? And of course, as soon as the plants arrived, I was like, I need to do something with them. And I had the idea of just like a really dense forest, whatever the fuck, crop, if you will. And I was like, who could I put in there? I'm at Beachhead. Absolutely Beachhead, 100%. And I had an AK-47 for him. This was in the early days. Like, did not have too many GI Joe classified at the time, and that AK-47, I have no idea where it's from, but I had a bunch of them. And I was just like, yeah, let's have him just kind of moving through a really dense crop, like a field, again, like Vietnam or whatever.
Yes, exactly.
And yeah, so I set up some lights, and yeah, I'm thankful that you brought this one up. I actually really like this one. This is one of the few that I really like of my own. I always liked it, and it just kind of it's like he's moving through a field, and it's just you're fucked. It's Beachhead, man. You're fucked.
Mm, I'm getting started. I'm just now learning how to do this.
It's all good.
Oh yeah, we're figuring this out tonight, though. All right, now how did I do that before? Okay, got it. All right, there's more to come. All right.
Okay, so I laugh because do you have any idea how hard it was to get that major blood for me? These were the early days. You guys, you guys had trouble with getting that guy. Up here, everything Cobra Island was almost impossible.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually bought Major Blood off someone, I think in California. I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure it was California. So I paid out the ass because Major Blood was okay. My earliest memories of G.I. Joe were the Mobat, Gung Ho, and Major Blood because I got all three for Christmas when I was, I don't know how old I was. It was probably like 5, 6, whatever the fuck it was. I guess it was 83. Either way, I got those three for Christmas. So Major Blood, even though I typically don't go into nostalgia in general, Major Blood, Gung Ho, they have nostalgic feelings. I can't lie. And the G.I. Joe Classified Major Blood just looked so badass. So yeah, I paid out the fucking ass to get that Major Blood. And as soon as he showed up, I was like, what do I do with this guy? And I just had an idea of them, you know, bunch of Cobra Troopers walking through a desert, Major Blood just kind of stopping to give a little bit of respect to the fallen. That's all it is. That's, I think, the first Major Blood shot I took.
Man, it looks perfect.
I just wanted, uh, you know, like he was. I just wanted an introspective thought. He's a poet, right? Like, people forget that he's a poet. He's a shit poet, but he's a poet. Poets are artists. Artists reflect, right? So I just really wanted to show that aspect of him, and I honestly really wanted to replicate a good mid-afternoon sunlight. So that's basically where it came from.
So
Ah, Dusty. Okay, so this one's going to bore you. There's not too much to say about this. There are two Buddhas, right, in the
mhm.
shot. Got them at the dollar store that day. That's where the shot came from. Not
Yeah,
gonna lie. So
yeah,
for $6, I got two Buddha statues, and I got them home. And I was like, "What do I do with them?" Like, well, I got a desert guy. Let's make a desert and stick some Buddhas in it, and I guess that works. And that's as far as it went. That's as deep as that goes. I'd love to give you a better story, but that is literally as deep as it goes.
yeah. That was a good one, man. Man, I could do this all night with you, man. Show you them pictures, but whenever you ready, man, we're gonna have to do this again soon because I got a whole nother batch. I just didn't want to wear you out, but I'm gonna wear you out with these pictures. Not tonight,
I'm
though.
good. I can keep going. I think I got a bottle of wine here.
But yeah, that's all I got for tonight. We want to wear you out too much, but I got a bunch of them for you. And we're gonna close this session out at 4 a.m. So anything you want to let the people know before you get up out of here?
Yeah, actually, gonna get a little heavy. So when Tuesday, I had a really big health scare. Like I said, I just turned 47 in January, so I've been a little bit more aware of
Yeah.
my health and stuff. And on this Tuesday just passed, I started getting really bad chest pains, and they kept getting more and more frequent. And around lunchtime, I left work and I went to the hospital. Thankfully, obviously, I'm fine. Uh, wasn't having a heart attack, but it was a scare. So the point of this dumb story is, if I could tell anybody anything, it's don't take your health for granted.
Oh yeah.
Uh, I did for, again, like 47 years. Like,
Mm.
rewind even 3 years ago and have stabbing pains in my chest, and I would have shrugged my shoulders and be like, "That's weird," and just keep going. Um, so going to the hospital over that was kind of odd for me, but I'm at a point in my life where I have so much to live for,
Right.
and and I have so much to be thankful for.
Yes.
Um,
Yes. Exactly.
and even like I'm not going to get into my youth and how fucked up it was and all of that, but I didn't respect life until recently,
Hmm.
and I didn't respect my own life and health until recently. But that really slapped me in the fucking face. And so, if I'm going to give anybody any advice, I'm sorry I'm getting heavy. Um, don't treat life like a joke, because
Right.
we don't know. We'll never know. We don't know when we go, and and when you get a scare like that, even if it means nothing in the end, when you get a scare like that, it's a big wake up call to really appreciating everything that you have. And if you don't think that you have much, you probably have a lot more than you think you do. And that's it.
I got one more question for you before you get out of here. And this is one is a spinoff. This is a weird question. It's a real weird question, but I'm asking everybody this question. What was your favorite struggle meal growing up?
Oh, there is no doubt. Ghetto pizza, bro. Ghetto pizza all day long. Whether you have to use ketchup or salsa, or if you actually have some sort of pasta sauce to put on bread, English muffins, whatever the fuck you have, and cheese and a bit of meat, put that shit in the oven, toaster oven, most of my life. That shit's the best. Ghetto pizza, 100%. Still make it.
All right. On that note, we're out.
Right. Peace out, brother.
All right.
Been great.
All right.